All right, so the Tracker 2072, we got a big deck kit in here. This thing is humongous front deck kit. It really doesn't weigh that much though. Set this up on a scale, see what we got. 44 pounds. Pretty lightweight considering this entire deck is 7 foot across and it's actually almost 9 foot tall. It's a big front deck that's going in this boat. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10's part 2 of the Tracker Grizzly 2072. It's a big boat, big build. Now we're gonna pick up where we left off in the last episode. We just finished up this front deck framing. Now we took it out, we welded it from both sides, actually put it on the scale, and I weighed it. It turned out to be right around 44 pounds, which I think is pretty light considering the thing is 9 foot by 7 foot wide. It's a big front deck. It's gonna be sick though. But what we're gonna do now is, now that we've got that deck welded solid, we're actually gonna put that in permanently. Go ahead and attach that. We're gonna run some verticals from the floor up to the bottom of that deck. We're gonna build the live well that goes in here. Austin's been killing it on these hatches. We've already got all the hatches for the front deck finished up. We'll be dropping those in. Then we gotta do some sheeting around the top of the deck between all of the hatches. And then I'm gonna try to figure out some type of a design for these consoles. We gotta build 2 consoles in here. Got a lot to do, guys. This boat's not gonna build itself. Let's get back to work. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. All right, so we got the rod box finished up. This thing turned out really good. You see back here, we had to taper this over. You still got about 7 inches here, and it widens out and tapers back to 14 inches back here. And the entire thing turned out to be 8 foot 1 inches long inside of there. So we'll be able to fit 8 foot rods in there. It's a little bit longer than I was thinking I was gonna be able to make it, but it turned out sweet. The way we did this, we put some angle clips up underneath on this back side. You can see I got the rivets in here. These rivets are going through the angle, and then they're also riveted up to the bottom of this tube right here. Then we went ahead and welded some of these spots in here too, just to make sure this thing's gonna be nice and strong. There's another angle clip behind here. But we made this thing in one piece. It was pretty nice the way it worked out, because we left the front of this, the face open right here. That way we could just sleeve this whole thing inside of there, and it's actually 97 inches, so pretty good sized rod locker. Now that that's finished up, I'm gonna try to mock up some type of cardboard template, the way I can figure out how I'm gonna set up these 2 side consoles. And we actually added another hatch that's gonna go up front up here. So we've got a little bit more internals to figure out on those. I'm not gonna put floors and stuff inside of all of these compartments, because he wants to do that himself. He's gonna come back and put some foam in here, and he's gonna run all the plumbing and electrical for his live well. We did get the live well box made up, and all that stuff's just gonna go separate. He can drop in the live well, drop the hatches in. We'll probably put this stuff in here and put a couple rivets in it, just so that he can get it home. And then once he gets it home, he can take it apart, finish up all his wiring and plumbing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this back bench seat figured out and framed out right now. Austin's over here working on it. Let's get back to work. All right, so we got this center step framed out. Now there's gonna be a hatch in there, and I'm playing around with the idea of this console. I mocked up this little cardboard console. Hey, it looks pretty cool. I'm not completely sold with it. We may have to tweak it a little bit to get it exactly right. I did cut back a couple angles on it. You can see from the face here, it actually tapers out on both sides because it's only 16 inches across here. And then in the bottom down here, it's 24 inches. So it's tapering out, and from this point to this point also, but I don't know. I'm not sold on how I'm gonna do that. And I'm also probably gonna end up framing from here back to the back deck. And that will give him like a little wall right here. They give him some place to connect his shifter for the throttle. And we'll also finish this thing off, probably have a cup holder or something in there. But we need something up underneath this so that we can support this, have something good to bolt it to. So I'm gonna leave all up underneath of that wide open, all the way back to here. And that will give him a ton of leg room. I don't know though. I'm gonna play around with the idea of this console. Man, never built a console like this. The only console I built was a center console, the jet boat, and then I built a couple of consoles for side consoles, but they were real plain Jane, simple John boat consoles. This is totally different. This is gonna be like a full-on bass boat. I want this thing to be aggressive. So I'm gonna think about this, try to figure this thing out. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so we've made a lot of progress on this boat build so far. This thing is really sick. It's got a humongous front deck on it. I did make this cardboard template a little bit different. We cut the top off of it and flattened it out, and we're probably gonna add a windshield on here. But making this cardboard template, it really changed the whole game when you wanna turn it into aluminum. Especially when you got two consoles, obviously, you want them to be exactly identical or it's just not gonna look right. We've got a little bit more stuff to finish up on this, and I'll give you guys a full walkthrough. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so the boat is done. This thing is sick. It's making me jealous. I really kind of want this rig now. I'm gonna have to redo my Tracker PT190 because this is kind of the exact setup that I was thinking of going with. I'm still kind of on the fence with the center console versus the dual consoles. I like the center consoles, but man, this dual console setup, this thing is super sharp. I'm gonna turn this camera around and I'm gonna give you guys a full walkthrough. There's still a couple of things that I've got to finish up, some little loose ends on the boat, but instead of just listing them off, I'll just tell you about those as we get to them on the walkthrough. Let's get right into it. All right, so check this thing out. This thing has a humongous front deck on it, my goodness. You could literally put a pop-up tent up here and you could sleep on the water if you wanted to. It ended up being 10'3" by about 7 and some change across the beam. Humongous. This thing is sick. Now I do still have to come back and throw a seat base pedestal in here. Already got the framing for that. And I had this framed out where he can put a recessed foot pedal tray in here. He's not gonna be using that right now, but we wanted to put it in there in case he wants it at a later date. And he's gonna be bringing his trolling motor with him. I think he has a Fortrex. I'm gonna end up mounting that up here for him. I gotta make a bracket for that, but I'm gonna do that while he's here with the motor. This thing is so cool looking though, man. I'm really digging these consoles. I'm gonna get into that in just a second because they are super dope. But this first hatch right here, this was the extra hatch that we threw into the boat. And this one is basically just like a little day box. Could be used for a cooler, but we've already got a cooler. So pretty much it's gonna be whatever dry storage he wants to have up in the front where it's gonna be easily accessible to him. Right behind that, we've got a humongous hatch in here, a 16 by 30. And this just goes into the bottom of the boat right now because he wants to finish all this off himself inside of here. So I'm gonna let him do that. The deal is he's gonna finish that off, bring it back, and then I'm gonna do all of the turf for him. He wants to put his own electrical and stuff. He's hands-on, he wants to get involved. Don't blame him. Same thing with this. This one just opens up the bottom of the boat. Tons of storage in there. He does have the original floor and stuff that he took out of the boat. So he's got some metal, he's gonna cut it up and, you know, make some dividers and walls and stuff inside of the boat. This one is our live well. A nice sized live well in here. I did not put the hole for his drain yet. I'm going to do that for him. I gotta pull this out and put that in there, but like I said, he's hooking up his own plumbing. So I'm just gonna put a recessed hole in there for him to put one of those plastic fittings in. It's gonna be sick though. Now another thing he added in here, this is a seat base pedestal. He's got one on either side of these big hatches. That way he can have two more people behind him because I mean, you got 10 foot and some change up here. There's enough room for 3 people to fish off the front of the boat. This hatch is just gonna be for storage. And this piece is just in here to hold this hatch, because what happens is when you make these hatches, sometimes they warp in the middle. So this is just to hold it until we attach this in here. But there's obviously a ton of space in there. I mean, he could use this as a second rod locker if he wanted to. There's the other rod lockers on the other side. Let's go check that one out. All right, so this hatch on the opposite side is his rod locker. It's kind of dirty inside of here, but obviously you can see this thing is big. It goes well up here into the front. It ended up being 8 foot 1 inches. So you can fit up to 8 foot rods inside of there. Definitely gonna be sweet for him. That gets us into our consoles. Now, I played around with the idea of these, and I'm happy with them. I'm really happy with them. The way they turned out is so cool. I mean, I was thinking about bringing this whole thing bigger and up onto the side and mounting it up here. But the issue is that if you do that, then you don't have this area right here. And look, this area, you know, runs up underneath the side right here. You got a good 5 inches. And the cool thing about that, runs all the way to the back deck. And then your passenger, he's got a spot where he can put his rods right up here, and they're out of your way. So I didn't want to bring it all the way over, just for the simple fact that I wanted to leave a little bit of walk space in here. Plus, with the smaller console, I just think it fits a little better. Now, this is the port side console right here, so it doesn't have a steering wheel going in it. So another thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this out. I'm gonna put one of my hatches in here, and I'm gonna put a bottom into this console. That way you can use this as a big glove box. And we're probably gonna end up putting maybe a couple cup holders in here. I'm going to get some glass for this, the plexiglass for them, to make this like a windshield on both sides. It's gonna come back here. It's not gonna keep that same angle though. It's gonna kick up a little bit straighter, like a windshield, to actually block the wind. So I gotta get those made. I got a local guy that does plastic work. So I'm gonna get some plastic cut from him and bend it, try to get those on there when he brings it back. But man, these consoles are so cool. Let me hop up in here so you can get a full feel for these things. I played around with this idea a lot, and I made that template for it and made it easy for me to make them both the same. But one thing that we added onto it at the last minute was this little bend on the side right here. It basically goes from this bend, it kind of continues that on, and it fades all the way out to nothing in the corner right there. It just kind of sets it off a little bit. It makes it a little bit more aggressive, and I'm just really hyped with this whole thing turned out. I mean, this step in here, this thing is sick, man. This is kind of like a last minute idea to throw a hatch in here. We were gonna do a step, but the hatch actually works out really well the way it fell in between the floor ribs. It made it to where this hatch could be about 8 inches deep. So you can see he's got a good cooler right there, and he's got a drain in there. He'll have a plug, he can pull that out, and drain his stuff out. And it works out perfectly being the cooler, because I mean, I'm sitting where his seats are gonna be right here on this bench. It's very easily accessible when you're sitting down in here. One thing I really liked about the way we did this whole thing though, was kind of a last minute thing, was the way this turned out right here. Now, I wasn't exactly sure how I was gonna finish all this off. This was one of the things that was bothering me, because it's not exactly like this thing comes with blueprints, and I didn't just wanna cut this thing, you know, way back over here. I wanted to have some type of deck there, and these were like the last minute thing. I think that really finished it off, because these are just gussets I put in here, and the tapered, it finishes off this whole section in here. It makes it look really good, really aggressive. It's got some nice angles cut into it, and it's just turned out great, man. I'm pumped for this build. This thing is so cool. This is like my favorite part of the whole thing. These consoles right here, and this little step in the center. I mean, this thing, it makes it for me. Like, if I was gonna build myself a boat, this is how I would do it. But that's how I do all my boats. I build them as if I'm building them for myself. And then we've got the starboard side console. This one's gonna have the steering wheel in it, probably a graph, gauges, and probably some switch panels and stuff down here. Now, with this catwalk on the side, it's the same way as it is on the port side. He's got a little room up here. More than likely, that's just gonna be open, because he does have controls for this boat. Now, when the outboard goes on, he's gonna have his controls that run up here. There was like a cover plate here originally, and then the controls came down and up into the center console. Well, with this, it's gonna come all the way up and then into the side of the side console. So he's probably gonna have to get me to bend him some type of a little cover plate to continue this all the way back to cover up his controls. And if not, he might be able to run them up underneath this too. We'll see. That would be a whole lot cleaner if he could. And then that would allow him a little area right here. I was gonna throw a cup holder in here for him, but I wanna figure out what he's gonna do with those cables. If he doesn't have to have the cables running up here, then we can always throw a cup holder in here at a later date. But man, this console just turned out sick. Super dope. Let's check out the back of the boat. Now I didn't put a floor in here because like I said, he does have a bunch of aluminum left from where he originally took this floor out. He wanted to do all that himself. But what we've got here is an 81-inch wide bench and it's 18 inches out. And he's got 3 big captain chairs that are gonna go in here. They fold down and they also hinge forward. So he's gonna end up cutting holes inside of this plate right here, 3 big holes. Then he'll be able to pull that seat forward and access up inside of here because this thing is about 8 inches tall. So there's actually a lot of storage inside of there. A lot of the bass boats are set up that way. All the Tracker Pro teams are like that. It's definitely comes in handy. That gets us into the back deck. Now he's still got a gigantic back deck in here. He's got a 115 Mercury motor he's putting on here. So this thing's gonna be really cool. And he cut out these holes. We put these hatches in here. And this is basically just a gigantic storage hatch now. It's gonna be a floor in there and then he's gonna have this thing set up just for storage, whatever he needs to put in there. I mean, that's a ton of tackle storage in there. Mirror image, same thing on both sides of the boat. Big storage area. And the center one, this one's cool. I like this one. So we left this back area open because it's a gigantic hatch already. He's obviously gonna have to put his motor back here and he's gonna have cables for the gas line and all that stuff. So we just left him a gap in here. I think it looks great. Check this out. That thing is pimping. It's gonna be so sweet once this thing's finished up. Get his batteries installed up inside of here. I wanted to put some of these gas pistons on this hatch in particular, just because it'll hold it up while he's putting his batteries in and out. And from standing outside the boat, it's kind of hard to get up here and lay this thing all the way back down. So this helps out. Now these other ones are pretty simple. You can lay them on the side of the boat. Same thing with a lot of the other ones, but this one was big and I thought it made sense to put the gas pistons on it. So that's it, guys. This thing is sick. Probably one of my favorite builds, if not my favorite build I've ever done. I mean, it's gonna be so cool when it's done. His plan is to get all the electrical put in here, the plumbing. He's gonna run all his LEDs, all that good stuff, hook up his trolling motor, get the outboard on here, and I'm guessing he's gonna paint it. I don't know. He's gonna bring it back to me, and when he does, we're gonna fine tune things. We're gonna get this thing exactly the way we want it. That way we can run this turf in here. Now, the way I did all of these sheets, everything is flush. It doesn't matter if it's pieced together like this because this is all gonna be covered up with turf. The main thing is that everything is flat and flush, so you don't see any of these lines or imperfections anywhere in your turf. You get a nice install. This boat is a boat that I want. I'd love to have this thing. I'd love to fish out of this thing. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna have to go fishing with him. I'm gonna have to do an on the water video with him. I wanna see what this thing can do on the water. And I really just wanna get out there and get some footage of it so that I can share it with you guys, because I think it's an epic build. And it really makes me think twice about building out my Tracker, because I'm digging these consoles and I'd like to have this same setup in my boat. All right, guys, so it's a wrap for this project. It's come a long way since the beginning. I mean, in part one, this thing was just plain Jane, lots of cracked welds, lots of broken ribs, and look at it now. It's a masterpiece. This thing is coming together, and once it gets to paint, all the turf and electronics and motors, it's gonna blow your mind at how awesome this boat is gonna be. Fun fact about this boat, the customer, the first time he ever called me, he hit me up and told me that he had this boat, he wanted to do this, he had all these big plans for it, and he had reached out to Tiny Boat Nation. He had told them what boat he had and what ideas he had, same conversation he had with me, and those guys out of Georgia, they gave him an astronomical number. But he was still considering it because he really wanted to get it done. He did some more homework online, research and stuff, and that's where he came across me. I had no idea the number they had given him. I quoted him a fair price for the work that I was gonna do, and it was literally like half the cost. So it makes you wonder where those numbers come from. What were those guys really gonna do to it? Do they have any fabricators that are on the same level of me in the Georgia location? I doubt it. I guess we'll never know. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I cannot wait to get this thing out on the water with the customer. I'm gonna give you guys a full video of this thing on the water. Once we get done with it, like I said, it's coming back for turf, so hopefully it won't be too long. I appreciate you guys watching. hit that like, subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this build, man. I know a lot of you guys are like, whoa, that thing is sick. And you can see the whole finished product in it now. A 20-foot all aluminum dual console bass boat / multi fishing boat. Yeah, it's gonna be dope. I'll see you guys next time. Let's get back to work.